Hi, it's Michelle again presenting my final speech on immunizations. Behind me, you'll see the board that I created with all of the facts and the opinions of the participants online. They sent them to me via direct message. They wish to not be recorded, so this is the way that I was able to incorporate them into my speech. Vaccinations have been a controversial subject for many, many years. Back in the olden days, they didn't have vaccinations. People lived long, healthy, thriving lives. Kids were exposed to bacteria, natural viruses, and their bodies were able to build up an immunity to these bacteria and diseases that now we can't fight off alone. Nowadays, our kids are not exposed to those bacteria. They're not exposed to those viruses. They're not exposed to the different things that if they were exposed to, our bodies would be able to fight off these diseases. Our bodies would be able to have a better immune system. The controversy behind immunizations are basically, are they beneficial or do they pose risks? Or is it a combination of both? Are they both beneficial and possibly have risks for some side effects? Once a bacteria or an antigen enters the body goes into sort of a state of shock. The body's trying to fight it off but doesn't have the necessary things that it needs to fight off diseases and bacteria because as children, they're not exposed to these bacteria and these viruses, so they don't have the equipment that they need they're naturally born with to fight off these diseases. A little history on vaccinations. Vaccinations were first discovered by Dr. Edward Jenner in 1796 when he inoculated a 13-year-old boy with the smallpox virus. And when I say inoculated, it basically means he took a specimen from an infected person and injected into the arm of an uninfected person in order to build up the immunity to that disease. This process was called arm-to-arm inoculation. Dr. Jenner noted that the uninfected person developed an immunity once he was injected with that active virus. Soon after, in 1798, the very first smallpox vaccination was discovered. Before the term vaccination was derived, it was called variolation or inoculation. In 1802, Dr. Jean de Caro challenged the government, saying that they shouldn't force inoculation if vaccination was going to soon be one of the rules and regulations of the land. Dr. Jean de Caro stated, "It is inconsistent for a government to encourage vaccination and not forbid inoculation." This was one of the first of many efforts to encourage vaccination over variolation to improve success and safety. The state of Massachusetts became one of the very first to encourage vaccinations and actually to endorse vaccination. Another doctor, Dr. Waterhouse, vaccinated 19 volunteers against the smallpox virus. Once he saw that it was a success, he wanted to hold on to it, so he monopolized that virus. He refused to share any of his supplies with anyone else. So then doctors decided to take it amongst themselves to try to vaccinate in their own way people that weren't affected with viruses, causing many, many people to lose their lives. Once Dr. Waterhouse heard of all these deaths, he became unselfish and decided to share his supplies with the world. In 1852, the very first law was passed mandating school children to be vaccinated. In 1879, the very first laboratory-derived vaccination was founded by Dr. Pasteur. Dr. Pasteur developed this virus using a weakened virus that had been exposed to oxygen. Dr. Pasteur injected that virus into chickens without any infections being noted. This is where live viruses were derived, or shall I say, vaccinations containing live viruses. Here on my board, you can see some of the things that were posted in the olden days regarding measles and mumps and vaccinations. Here at the bottom is one that I like in particular. It says, "Do not vaccinate." And there you can see a snake that has the word vaccination written on it and a mother holding her child. She's protecting her child from what they're comparing the vaccination to a snake. They're saying, is vaccination necessary? So yes, vaccinations have been challenged for many, many years. And in theory, they have every reason to. Here, you'll see It says physicians reported the facts about 178 children who died of diphtheria in 1929. According to this, immunization was not received by one single child that died of diphtheria. It says the physician was not called in, and in nearly 60% of the cases, he wasn't called until after the third day of the kid being ill. Now let's think about how that number could have been drastically decreased had those children been vaccinated. According to a study by procon.org, most childhood vaccinations are 90 to 99% effective in preventing disease. According to Shot at Life, a United Nations Foundation partner, approximately 2.5 children are saved from preventable diseases every year due to vaccination. The Center for Disease Control estimates that 732,000 American children were saved from death, and 322 million cases of childhood illnesses were prevented between 1994 and 2014. Now, as vaccinations relate to a community, there's a term coined herd immunity, which refers to a specific community that is vaccinated or not vaccinated against certain diseases and viruses. And they take that term herd immunity and they use that when there are an outbreak or if there's an epidemic of a specific disease to see exactly what would have happened if every child and or adult had been vaccinated. According to procon.org, if a specific population using that herd immunity all have been vaccinated, it is highly unlikely that an outbreak of that disease will occur. Nowadays, it has become a requirement for both school and the employment to be vaccinated. Specifically for healthcare workers, we have to be vaccinated with the flu vaccine. That within itself has lots and lots and lots of stigmas attached to it. A lot of people feel that once you get the flu vaccine, you're being injected with a live virus and that you'll get sick and that you'll go into a coma. And most recently, just yesterday, I saw something on Facebook where a wife posted her husband had gotten the flu shot and 3 days later he was in a coma. And of course, they're attributing that to the flu vaccination. Now, it is true that you can have a reaction to a vaccination, any vaccination, not just the flu vaccination, not just the HPV vaccination, not just the measles or the mumps. You can have a reaction to any foreign body that you're putting into your body. It's called anaphylaxis. It's the reaction, the state that your body goes into when introduced to something foreign. According to the National Vaccine Center, only 1 in 1 million people actually experience the side effects of vaccines. It is my opinion that vaccines actually are beneficial for the general public. It has been founded that vaccines save approximately $1.38 trillion in medical costs. And according to UNICEF, an additional $6.2 billion could be saved if these vaccinations were more readily available to third world countries. And in those third world countries, we see more of those diseases that we may not see so much here in the United States. As science and technology continues to evolve, I'm sure there will be things that will be proven whether the vaccinations are truly harmful or truly beneficial. There's going to always be people with their opinions. There's going to always be people with their own facts and their own research that they back their facts with. But you have to empower yourself. Arm yourself with all the information that you need to make an educated decision when you're deciding against vaccinations for yourself and or your children. Now, I want to focus on this last post on my board. Right here in the center, it says, what if I told you by saying you're anti-vaccine, you're actually saying you're pro-disease? Let that sit, let that sink in, and see what you get from that. At the beginning of this project, my speech was set out to be persuasive. Then it was informative. Now it's a little bit of both. Take all of the information that I gave you and make an educated decision, not an educated guess, an educated decision on how you can protect your family, yourself, and others. Thank you.